Welcome to the MHC Professional Development Series focusing on the subject of depression. I am your host, Angela Benedict, CEO of the Military Healing Center. Many of us are being robbed of months of our lives that we can't get back. People around us who don't understand why we are so tired may tell us to just get over it. Think of the worst flu you've ever had that doesn't end. Adrenal fatigue is an often misunderstood condition. It has many overlapping symptoms that also are included in chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, nutrient deficiencies, sleep deprivation, etc. When our body is in distress, the adrenal glands of the endocrine system are activated. They are not designed for chronic use. Endocrine glands release hormones into the bloodstream. Hormones are chemical messengers carried by the blood that regulate body functions. The glands produce hormones in small amounts as they are needed. When any gland is exhausted, there is not enough of the hormones it produces being pumped into this make-on-demand system. Soon the entire system is out of balance. Our hormones are chemicals that keep us alive. It is a serious issue when they are out of balance and not enough or too much is being produced of any given hormone. When things are out of whack, our body tries to compensate through the immune and endocrine systems. Key symptoms of adrenal fatigue are fatigue, insomnia, anxiety, low blood pressure, chronic muscle pain, multiple chemical sensitivities and food allergies, loss of libido, inability to regulate body temperature, low energy, menstrual irregularities, a metallic taste in the mouth, heart palpitations, salt and sugar cravings, hypoglycemia. A note about male PMS, also known as irritable man syndrome. Andropause is known as male menopause and is a result of a drop in testosterone below the normal range for an aging male. Testosterone is necessary to build proteins in the body and is critical for normal sex drive and stamina, but also in building healthy bones, liver regulation, regulating blood sugar, and keeping neurotransmitters in balance. So together, the chemicals our bodies make, whether they are neurotransmitters or other hormones, if they are out of balance, they can't support each other, and bad things start to happen inside our bodies. When bad things happen, our immune and endocrine systems react, and further dysregulation takes place. When those kinds of dysregulated processes have gone on long enough, the adrenals become exhausted. What causes this level of imbalance in the first place? The key things are diet, stress, toxins, infection, inflammation. Adrenal fatigue has 4 phases of increasing severity. Symptoms of advanced phase 3 and 4 are serious and can include heart palpitations, chest pain, postural hypotension, severe anxiety, severe insomnia, feeling wired and tired, and frequent adrenal crashes followed by slow recovery. Adrenal fatigue can feel very much like a panic attack or heart attack. Being bedridden is common at this point as the body is trying to lower itself into a survival level in order to heal itself. Rest is required. Proper diet is required. No stress, if at all possible, is required. Exercise will be off limits until much healing is done in order to prevent crashes that take a long time to recover from. Then gentle, consistent daily exercise can be introduced. 3 to 12 months is a normal recovery time. In these symptoms, adrenal fatigue, autoimmune issues, inflammation, mold illness, and toxic environment, workplace bullying, sleep deprivation, lack of essential nutrients. Many of these symptoms can be found within the combat stress spectrum. Combat stress, or operational stress injury, will be discussed during in-class training as part of the TTSCT course, Tactical Trauma Self-Care Training. Inflammation and oxidation create a loop in the brain that causes damage. Inflammation causes the oxidation process, then creates more of itself. When molecules have lost an electron, remember, we are chemical cocktails walking around in an electromagnetic force field comprised of protons, neurons, and electrons. Cells start stealing each other's electrons when they lose theirs due to stress, pollution, and toxicity. This process of stealing is called oxidation. These unstable cells, which now can't function properly, cause inflammation. Antioxidants provide needed electrons. Some plants, berries, nuts are antioxidants. Vitamins A, C, and E are as well. Turmeric is an antioxidant. Omega-3 oils found in fish are antioxidants. Being outside and grounding where you are observing electrons from the Earth into your feet, will provide you with needed electrons. Let's talk about gluten. It is a protein composite, which is a glue-like substance used to hold things typically made with flour together like bread. When mixed with yeast, it allows bread to rise and maintain itself. It's a food additive, stabilizing agent, is found naturally in wheat, bulgur, rye, barley, and spelt grains. It is estimated that 40% of all North Americans don't process gluten well. Statistics for other countries are growing. Gluten sensitivity is not a food allergy. Remember, gluten is like glue. It is a hard-to-digest protein that, when not able to be digested properly, hangs out in your intestines, covering the microvilli on the intestine wall and flattening the microvilli, causing symptoms like malabsorption of nutrients, skin rashes, fatigue, depression, because there is a gut issue. This protein is treated as a non-self substance, and T cells will try to take it out. But remember, it is smeared against the wall of the intestine. No clear shot there. So the stomach and intestine lining will get shot up, creating a situation called leaky gut. Without the lining being intact, all kinds of molecules that shouldn't be leaving the intestine can flow into the bloodstream. If you remove gluten from the diet, for those who can't process it well enough, the gut will heal. Our stomach and intestine lining cells are replaced every 5 days, but if gluten keeps being fed into the system, the same shootout happens over and over. Once you have leaky gut, you have inflammation leading to ongoing autoimmune disease like irritable bowel syndrome and others. Once the inflammatory cycle is provoked, T cells, also known as cytokines, will keep being released because they detect an enemy substance. But the owner of the body keeps eating more food with gluten in it, and the problem goes on day after day. Cytokines do damage everywhere they go, damaging tissue and leaving it vulnerable to dysfunction. Chemical processes now can't be completed, resulting in disease. These special operations teams are great, but they aren't subtle. They destroy things. It is best not to have to call them out. But wait, haven't we always eaten grains? Why is this a problem now? Our modern diet doesn't compare much with what our ancestors ate, and although, yes, we have eaten grains for millennia, these weren't genetically modified strains bioengineered to contain up to 40 times more gluten. It has been known and studied since the 1970s that gluten breaks down in the stomach to become chemicals that are small enough to cross the blood-brain barrier, which is like our stomach lining, but it is around our brain. Its job is to prevent most chemicals from entering the brain except the ones which are on accepted transporter molecules. It's another line of defense. Gluten chemicals cross this barrier and go right into our morphine receptors in the brain. Gluten is an addictive substance. The reason you crave the bagel, pastry, donut, bread is because it is creating a response in your brain, just like heroin does. This also explains why people fail on diet plans that change their gluten consumption. This change needs to be treated as seriously as getting a drug addict off opiates. How long have we known that our stomach regulates much of our body's overall health? Hippocrates, who lived from 460 to 370 BC, is considered the father of modern medicine, and is why doctors have to swear the Hippocratic Oath. He stated, "All disease begins in the gut." Many serious illnesses, including mental illnesses, have been cured with changes in diet. During World War II, psychiatrist Curtis Dohan noticed that fewer of his schizophrenic patients were being hospitalized during the bread shortages that were a result of war rations. At the Veterans Affairs Hospital where he worked in Philadelphia in the United States, when a gluten-free diet was given to his patients, they became symptom-free. After 4 weeks, when gluten was reintroduced to their diets, hallucinations, delusions, and social detachment returned. Since that time, there has been a studied correlation between schizophrenia and celiac disease, a gluten intolerance in the body. Studies have also shown links between bipolar and major depressive disorder and gluten. How serious is this? Inflammatory chemical proteins found in gluten, most grains, as well as when gluten is added to food, has been correlated to serious mental illness. It does damage to our brains. For some people who have a very sensitive digestive system and cannot tolerate gluten at all, it has serious repercussions. It is currently believed that up to 40% of all North Americans have a gluten sensitivity. Can this explain the upward trend in mental illness that we are seeing in North America? Yes. Gluten sensitivity and how it affects our nervous systems in the body is also being connected to Alzheimer's disease and Parkinson's disease. So our body becomes engaged in an ongoing battle due to the antibodies or inflammatory chemicals that are now inside our bodies. Our gut has become unhealthy. Our immune system is compromised. Our body is being damaged at a cellular level. Our brains are being damaged. Because these battles are life-threatening, our endocrine system comes online. Our endocrine system is incredibly complex. Having some idea of what it does is important to understand how stress is managed in our bodies. There are three main areas of the body that house endocrine system components: in the brain, in the torso around the stomach, and in the genitals. Most people understand that human bodies contain hormones necessary for reproduction of the species. We create dozens of different hormones in different glands and organs of our bodies. The headquarters of the endocrine system is in our brain, the hypothalamus, which coordinates the activities of the rest of the system. As well as working closely with the immune system, the endocrine system is tightly linked to the nervous systems of the body. The endocrine system is comprised of the pituitary gland, which helps to control the system with the hypothalamus, the thymus, and the pineal gland. These are all in your head. The hypothalamus works within a team of four: the amygdala, hippocampus, prefrontal cortex, and itself. If a fear response is detected at the amygdala, a chain of events is put into motion that is coordinated by the hypothalamus, which notifies the nervous system, the pituitary gland, and the adrenal glands. The hypothalamus controls the autonomic nervous system, regulating hunger, thirst, body temperature and sleep, sexual behavior, anger, and fear. It secretes 10 different hormones. It coordinates the stress response, including deciding when cortisol will be released into the body. Cortisol is the #1 hormone in the stress response. Its effects are felt over the entire body, and it does very important things in the body to try to regulate chemical processes back to homeostasis after a stress event. It has a major impact on insulin production and will increase insulin in order to get enough glucose into the bloodstream when there is a problem. It will force cells to excrete potassium and hold on to their sodium to keep fluid levels high. Cortisol takes over the immune system's regular functions by shutting down the communication system that activates T cells who want to go and attack non-self substances but can't because they aren't getting signals which are being blocked by cortisol. This creates an opportunity for infection. Excessive amounts of cortisol directly impact the hippocampus of the brain that stores memory and the frontal cortex and impairs thinking. As soon as it is active, cortisol first shuts down the immune system. So cortisol is the kind of beast you don't want out of its cage for too long. We need small amounts of cortisol over the day, released in the morning, leveling out in the afternoon, put back into its cage by melatonin, and then we sleep. When this axis of hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and adrenal glands is managed well, we are stable. When it isn't, illness results, such as anxiety disorder, bipolar disorder, PTSD, borderline personality disorder, ADHD, major depressive disorder, chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, irritable bowel syndrome, and alcoholism. Keeping the HPA axis in line requires neurotransmitters, in particular dopamine, serotonin, and noradrenaline. We know that these critical neurotransmitters are dependent on a healthy gut. The other organs and glands that are part of the endocrine system are the testes in men, ovaries in women, and the adrenal glands that I have already mentioned. Adrenal glands are the size of walnuts and sit on top of the kidneys. Although small, they are incredibly complex. Each gland is divided into 3 departments, which each produces several different kinds of hormones. The least known parts of the endocrine system may be the thyroid and parathyroid. The thyroid sits just under your Adam's apple or larynx in your throat. It secretes 2 key hormones, T3 and T4, that regulate many other systems in the body. This process is controlled by the hypothalamus and pituitary glands. The thyroid controls calcium levels in the body through the parathyroid. Blood calcium levels are a serious thing, leading to osteoporosis, chronic fatigue, kidney stones, and other problems. We have a set of secondary organs in the endocrine system as well, including pancreas, heart, kidneys, and intestines. When our pancreas is compromised because it is overused through insulin creation to counter high levels of glucose, that compromises the entire endocrine system, which will trigger cortisol. Our kidneys filter blood. Our bloodstream surges through our kidneys on an ongoing basis, being cleaned. The toxins the kidneys find in our blood are discharged through urine, which drains from the kidneys into the bladder. The kidneys also create hormones and regulate insulin and the parathyroid hormones. Our digestive system relies on the nervous system and endocrine system to help us digest, absorb, and discard food molecules. The small intestine is so important to the endocrine system that it is a separate system called the enteric endocrine system. This is the GI tract, stomach, and small intestine working together to secrete hormones needed for digestion to function properly. Unlike stomach acid and mucus, which are always present, special cells in the intestine and GI tract only secrete hormones when needed, for example, when they detect that there is too much stomach acid. The heart is an endocrine organ, as well as being the center of the circulatory system. The heart secretes hormones that keep the kidney and liver processes in line. Even our lungs are now known to be part of the endocrine system. When our body has used up the oxygen in our blood, it is cycled back to the heart, which pushes it through the lungs, which fill the blood with oxygen again, while it takes out any carbon dioxide. However, other harmful chemicals are also removed from the bloodstream as the blood travels through the lungs. The cells that line the lungs secrete many different kinds of hormones and other chemicals used to keep the blood clean. The mucus that lines the lungs makes it part of the immune system's defense as well. Proper endocrine function is critical to cardiovascular health. The endocrine system controls how your heart beats. This is why your heart beats very fast when you are afraid. Anxiety attacks feel like heart attacks with many of the same symptoms. Blood pressure, heart contractions, and pumping, rhythm are all controlled by the endocrine system. The heart secretes two hormones that are full of dozens of amino acids, which are transporter molecules for many other chemicals in the body. The heart pumps the blood that is the transportation system of the body, along with the lymph fluid to ensure that all chemicals get where they need to go. If the heart's steady regulation is affected by dysfunction of the endocrine system, that is bad news for the whole body. The effects of adrenal fatigue are at epidemic levels, with many people not understanding why they can't maintain high levels of energy and stamina, why they are so tired and can't shake it off, why they can't lose weight, aren't sleeping, and generally feel awful. Adrenal fatigue can feel like a heart attack or panic attack. Simple changes to diet have a huge healing effect on gut health. Gut health is critical to whole body health. Excessive cortisol is dangerous. An adrenal recovery plan is needed to successfully recover from this fatigue. Thank you for taking time to attend this training. Please join me again for the next training video in this series on depression, video 4 of 4, Strategies for Recovery. For all training options, go to the MHC site at militaryhealingcenter.net. Be well, stay safe, and thank you for your service.